Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Shaw, and I'm the regional recruiter based out of Mobile, Alabama for the University of West Alabama. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the SAT. If you joined us for our previous webinar, you learned a lot about what the SAT was. And in this webinar, we'll go a little bit more in depth about some of the questions and the sections that you will see throughout your test. We'll break down some of the questions, work some of the problems out, and hopefully this will better prepare you for your test. Again, my name is Sonia Shaw, and I am the regional recruiter based out of Mobile, Alabama. And today we'll have Garrett Pearson joining us.
Sonia, hey everybody, my name is Garrett Pearson. I cover the East Alabama region and Southwest, the Gulf Coast region of Mississippi for the University of West Alabama.
All right. So what you will learn in this webinar is you'll gain a basic understanding of what the SAT is, free SAT preparation resources, study tips, how to increase test performance. You will also have the opportunity to explore test strategies for each section of the SAT and practice questions and some examples.
Okay, now what is the SAT? The SAT is an entrance exam used by most colleges and universities to make admissions decisions. The SAT is a multiple choice pencil and paper test created and administered by the College Board. The purpose of the SAT is to measure a high school student's readiness for college and provide colleges with one common data point that can be used to compare all applicants. And it is comprised of 4 required sections: reading, writing and language, math no calculator, and math with a calculator. And there is an optional essay portion as well.
Okay, so success in 7 easy steps. What you're going to want to do, I know this is kind of cliche, but keep calm and carry on. On test day, relaxation is going to be key. Don't be a zombie. Have a protein-rich breakfast and get good sleep. Starting 2 nights before the test. The last thing you want to do is be sleep deprived on the day of your test, have test anxiety. Stay clear of that. Stay positive. And practice, practice, practice. What you're doing right now, joining in on this webinar, is helping you prepare. Some of the questions that we're going to go over is also going to help you practice and prepare for the test. Do guess intelligently with purpose. If you don't know the answer, do your best on making that educated guess. Mark up your test booklet as much as you need or as much as you can. And don't be a statue. This kind of goes back on number 2. Don't be a zombie. You want to shake out those limbs and stretch. If you need to do that during your test, you can certainly do that as well.
Now, how should you prepare for the SAT? Understanding the SAT format is crucial to earning a high composite score on the exam. You're going to want to take as many practice tests as possible, but also learn the content. Take advantage of online resources such as this one to prepare for the SAT. Review what you remember from previous standardized tests. A big thing to do not do is do not try to cram information prior to taking the test, and also set aside a designated time to review and study for that test.
All right, guys, so how much should you study? Some professionals recommend practicing almost every day for several weeks before the test, while others recommend taking a certain number of practice tests. In the end, it is completely up to you on what you need to do to help prepare for that exam. These 2 things are clear: being consistent with your studying and make sure to take practice exams. Then take time analyzing them. Cramming for the SAT will not work.
A couple of study tips. The best learning happens when you think in detail about the new material. And also the process of thinking in detail weaves the new information into what you already know, making it available to you whenever you need it.
Space out your breaks. You should practice, take a break to let it sink in, and then practice again. You also need to take frequent breaks. So if you plan on studying all day Saturday or all day Sunday or both days, make sure that you take frequent breaks. That can consist of taking anywhere from every 20 minutes. People that are unable to focus on a task for more than 20 minutes, which means that you should stop frequently to recharge and refocus. If you need to take a break every 20 minutes, do so. Whatever works for you, make sure that you're using that time to recharge and refocus your brain.
Do a lot, read a little. People who are the best at studying use the following technique. First, they do a few questions, then they read the answers. If they got a question wrong, they study that particular answer closely. If they understand it, that's good. If they don't understand the answer, they read an explanation about how to answer the question. Once they understand the explanation, they start over, doing a few more questions, reading the answers, and seeing if now they understand. Success in studying is about diving in, not reading a lot of stuff.
Teach others. Teaching requires that you learn the material extremely well. While you are teaching, you may suddenly realize that you don't understand something as well as you thought, or might find another faster or better way to do a question. You can either teach what is already on the test, how to calculate the perimeter of a square, or you can teach techniques to improve your speed or accuracy on specific type of questions. Example, the best way to answer a math question with variables. So make sure that you're going back, especially on the questions that you're having a little bit of trouble with, or you're struggling getting the right answer. Go back and teach yourself those questions. If you need to, grab a friend, grab a study partner, and work out those problems and really teach yourself different techniques on how to get the right answer.
Reflect. Always reflect on what you have learned at the end of each study session. As Sonia mentioned earlier, you take generally a break after every 20 minutes. You don't want to just read and then just stop and forget what you learned. You want to reflect on what you've learned at the end of each study session. Take a few minutes to summarize what you did and the specific things that you mastered. You can write a paragraph or two, make a list, or summarize each new technique. And this will not only help to cement the knowledge, but also provide a nice reminder of things to review in future study sessions.
All right, so now we're going to start the SAT breakdown. The first section is going to consist of the reading section. What you're going to expect during this section is 52 multiple choice questions that are going to consist of 65 minutes long, passages or pairs of passages, literature, historical documents, social sciences, and natural sciences.
Now, what to expect? The first thing is you'll have, like Sonia said, 65 minutes to read 5 passages taken from a literature, history, social studies, and the natural sciences, and answer a total of 52 questions. The questions will ask you to do everything from determining the meaning of words in context, deciding why an author included a certain detail, finding the main idea of a whole passage, comparing 2 passages, or even pinpointing information on a graph. Next, choose your own order. Reading questions are not presented in order of difficulty, but they are in chronological order. Don't be afraid to skip a hard question, and don't worry if you can't answer every question. Finally, read what you know. You don't have to waste time reading every single word of the passage and trying to become an expert on whatever the topic is. You have the passage right there in front of you. So move back and forth between the passage and the questions, focusing only on what you need instead of getting mired down in all the little details.
So continued on what to expect during the reading section. Leave your opinions at the door. Be careful when you see a question that contains the word infer, imply, or suggest. The answer may not be directly stated in the text, but there will still be plenty of evidence there to support the correct answer. Take dual passages one at a time. One of your science or history social studies passages will be a set of dual passages, 2 shorter texts about one topic. Do questions about the first passage first, questions about the second passage second, and questions about both passages last. This will save time and keep you from confusing the 2 passages when you're evaluating the answer choices.
And here is an example of what one of the practice questions would look like. On the reading section, we'll give you guys a couple seconds to look over this before we head into the question.
For those of you who are watching on a recording, if you do get to this question, please keep in mind that you can hit pause and really read this passage thoroughly. And for those of you that are joining us live, do know that this will be available to you on our website. So if you do need to go back and read this passage, you are welcome to do so. Okay, we're going to go on to the answer. So question 1 marks the end of final sentences of paragraph 4 have primarily which effect? A, they invite readers to see themselves as active participants in the fight against tyranny. B, they are placed there to soften the message that Americans cannot independently fight wars. C, they allude to the idea that some questions, such as how Americans should behave, have no concrete answers. Or D, they help to criticize previous generations for leaving the work of freedom unfinished. So take a second, look over those answers. If you need to, if you're watching this on a recording, go back to the practice question, look that over. And here are the choices for answers if you need to look those over as well. And you should have gotten A. A is the correct answer. They invite their readers to see themselves as active participants in the fight against tyranny.
Okay, this is going to be a breakdown of the writing and language arts section. What to expect: 44 multiple choice questions, 35 minutes, and it will consist of grammar, vocabulary and context, and editing skills.
So the writing and language section, tips and tricks. Check what's changing in the answer choices. The word document remains the same in each, but what comes after it changes each time? This question then seems to be asking, which words will best link the two ideas in the sentence? Learn from the answer choices. The way we speak is often very different from the way we write. Use the answer choices to reveal mistakes that you might not otherwise have spotted or heard in this sentence. Process of elimination does the heavy lifting. Once you have a sense of what the question is testing, process of elimination can get you closer and closer to the answer. Cross off just 1 or 2 wrong answers and the correct answer becomes a little bit more obvious. So, in this practice question, you're looking at language is a living document shows. So are we going to correct document shows how people think and communicate? So if you look at what's underlined, you're going to see document shows. Is the correct answer. Language is a living, no change. So does it stay and remain as document shows how people think and communicate? Is it language is a living document? It shows how people think and communicate. Or is it language is a living document that shows how people think and communicate? Or lastly, is it letter D? Language is a living document which showing how people think and communicate. So take a second, look that over, and we're going to proceed with the correct answer, which is C. So let's go back and read that with the letter C. Language is a living document that shows how people think and communicate. So this was a little tricky. You may want to use that process of elimination, start crossing off all answers that you know for a fact will not work, and C will become a little bit more obvious on the correct answer.
Okay, now we're going to do a breakdown of the math section. What to expect: 58 multiple choice questions broken up into a 20 question no calculator section and a 38 question calculator allowed section. It'll be 80 minutes total, 25 minutes for the no calculator section, and then 55 minutes for the calculator allowed section. It'll consist of algebra 1 and 2, geometry, and some trigonometry.
So what to expect? The SAT math test is made up of two sections, sections 3 and 4 of the overall test. Here's what you can expect on each of them. So Garrett already covered this in this previous slide, but here's a good little breakdown on what to expect on each section. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this. So when you are doing your practice test, you know exactly how much time, how many questions, and if there's any grid questions or not during those sections.
Okay, more of what to expect. Here's a list of math concepts that are tested on the SAT. Again, Algebra 1 and 2, arithmetic, probability data analysis, and plane geometry, coordinate geometry, and trigonometry. That's it. Of these categories, algebra makes up the largest part of the test, accounting for more than half of the questions. Plane geometry and trigonometry make up the smallest part. There will only be a maximum of 6 questions from that category on the SAT test.
The math section, some frequent answers and questions about grid-ins. 13 of 58 math questions will require you to produce your own answers and mark them on a grid printed in your answer sheet. Although the format of these questions is different from that of the multiple choice questions, the mathematical concepts tested aren't all that different.
Okay, more frequently asked questions, which SAT math formulas do I need to memorize? Both SAT math sections will begin with the same set of instructions. These instructions include a few formulas like the area and circumference of a circle that you may need to know in order to answer some of the questions. Now, what kind of calculator should I bring? Graphing calculators are allowed. However, if you don't have one, don't worry. Graphing calculators are not necessary on the SAT. However, this part is important. If you do decide to use a graphing calculator, keep in mind that it cannot have a QWERTY style keyboard on it, such as the TI-95. Also, you can't use the calculator on your phone. On test day, you will have to turn your phone off and put it underneath your seat.
Okay, so we're going to dive right into one of the first practice questions. Remember, during this question, you cannot use a calculator. So if you look at number 1, it's 1/8 plus 1/10 equals A over B. In the equation above, if A and B are positive integers and A over B is the simplest reduced form, what is the value of A? Take a second, look that over, do the math, and we'll proceed with the answer. So for this question, you should have gotten B. So we're gonna break this down and we're going to do the work on this. The lowest number that both 8 and 10 are factors of is 40. Convert the fractions to denominator of 40. So 50 over 40 and 4 over 40 equals 9 over 40. There's no factor that 9 and 40 have in common. So the fraction cannot be reduced. The number in place of A over B is 9. So the answer is B. Be careful though, the value of B is in D.
Okay, this is an example of one of the questions on the calculator allowed portion of the test. Nails are sold in 8-ounce and 20-ounce boxes. If 50 boxes of nails were sold and the total weight of the nails sold was less than 600 ounces, what is the greatest possible number of 20-ounce boxes that could have been sold? A, 33, B, 25, C, 17, or D, 16. Take a moment to look at that. Work that out if you'd like to. And Sonia, would you like to work this one out with us?
Yes. I would love to. So guys, keep in mind that during this question, you are able to use a calculator. So take advantage of that and work this question out. If you need to write it out, do so. Again, if you are watching this through a recording, pause and work that question out. So for this question, you should have gotten letter D, and let's work that out. Let's see why we got 16. So the first thing you're going to want to do is turn the question into system of equations into two variables. So X equals the number of 8-ounce boxes sold. Y equals the number of 20-ounce boxes sold. The total number of boxes sold was 50, and less than 600 ounces were sold. So X plus Y equals 50. 8X plus 20Y is less than 600. You want to remember that the total weight of nails was less than 600 ounces. X equals 50 minus Y. So we need to figure out what the max value of Y is that satisfies both equations. So let's work this out. 80 multiplied by 50 minus Y plus 20Y is less than 600. Work that out, you get 400 minus 8Y plus 20Y is less than 600. Once you work that out, you get 12Y is less than 600 minus 400. Once you work that out, you get 12Y is less than 200. So Y is less than 200 divided by 12. Once you do the math on that, the max value of Y should equal 16, which is letter D.
Okay, so, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say the same thing you were saying, Garrett. Our resource page is available. You can go ahead and click on the SAT overview. The College Board website is also on there for SAT practice test. And then Prep Scholar as well has awesome practice tests that I hope all of you take advantage of.
And here are a few more resources you can use. The first one is UWA's SAT prep page. And below that are the COVID updates to keep you in the loop on that. And we encourage you to look at those as well.
Okay. So at this time, if you will use the chat portion of the Zoom webinar, go ahead and ask any questions that you may have for Garrett and I. We'll be happy to answer those. And if you are watching this through a recording, please keep in mind that you can ask any questions that you may have and email those to admissions@uwa.edu, and one of us will get back to you. Okay, it looks like we have no questions at this time. So we would like to thank all of you for joining us during this SAT Bootcamp webinar. We know it was pretty lengthy, and we hope that we were able to help you understand what the practice tests and some of the sections of the SAT will look like.